Hi, everyone, and welcome to God's Plan, Your Part, a podcast where our goal is to read the entire Bible in a year, seeking to understand God's plan of redemption while discovering daily and practically your part in it. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're in Jeremiah again. We're in chapters 7, 8, and 9 today. Some interesting themes that we are seeing across these chapters as Jeremiah is still fleshing out and explaining the evil that is within the land of Judah and Jerusalem. But it's so crazy how many times I heard the same language used over and over again. So I counted, there are roughly 13 times where there is reference of deceptive words or deceit or lying throughout the chapter, which is so interesting to me because I feel like we've known that they have struggled with other gods. We've known that they have struggled with evil worship and just weird things that come out of that. But I think it's very interesting and very telling that this idea of lying or this concept of lying was so prominent that it was mentioned so many times. I think we'll really kind of flesh out today how truth and speaking truth is also 100% important, and I think sometimes overlooked in our daily life.
One of the lead deceptive lies, this is just extra credit interesting. So chapter 7, right when I start the reading, stick around, read for yourself, or stick around, listen to us read. You'll notice in verse 4, it says, "Do not trust in these deceptive words. This is the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord." Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a weird, repetitious, chant, I guess.
Yeah.
But the lie that was being taught, one of them, there were many, but one of them was the temple of the Lord is in Jerusalem. God is not going to destroy Jerusalem. God is not going to destroy the temple because he literally lives over there. God will not destroy his own house because he lives here. And basically God is saying hey, I actually am going to destroy all of this because I don't need a house and you are a deceptive people. And you need to stop listening to lies.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's they lie to each other, but they also feel so invincible that they can lie to God because their trust and their hope is within the temple too. I think there's that tension there that God is addressing, that you're trusting in the temple and not me. You're also lying about the offerings that you're bringing, the sacrifices that you're making, and you're not fooling me. I know your deception.
I wonder if there is applicable, comparable times in our lives,
right,
when we take faith, or we take, security from the vestiges of faith and not the faith itself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All those super fleeting things that don't matter.
Yeah, because it seems I read this and I'm how foolish could they be to think that the temple protected them from God? God doesn't need a temple, but that is what they thought. But I wonder what the modern equivalent is when we are trusting in things that are related to God but aren't God.
Well, it's really weird in church. I think today, and we're definitely kind of bouncing around from churches right now. We're trying to figure out where we're landing. And something we notice often is this idea of fame. It's very strange. So once you start putting in weird things where God belongs, it's you feel, it's kind of what we talked about the other day too. You feel you're doing the right thing, but you're actually deceiving yourself, and God sees it. God is not dumb to this. This is nothing new under the sun, and it's very obvious. But this idea of being known and being famous and all these things are just I think really sickening and poisoning the church today. And this is not just a one instance thing for us. And we've traveled around for maybe 5 or 6 weeks, and it just seems this weird sickness that is within church. And I think I can't help but think of some of that when I'm reading through this.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be careful that we don't worship something that looks like God or seems like God
ourselves,
but is definitely not God.
Yeah.
So that would be one of the lead lies that was believed in Jeremiah, because it was Jeremiah, stop it. The temple's right over there. God's not going to come after us. He's not going to destroy his own house.
Right. But something interesting too, I read, or as you were reading, I suppose, in the first couple verses of chapter 7,
there's almost this like recipe for what it actually looks like to obey God and his commands. And I actually really appreciated that. So in verse 5 of chapter 7, it says, amend your ways. If you are actually going to amend your ways, you need to execute justice with one another. And I think that's where that deception comes in, recognizing it. If you do not oppress the sojourner, the fatherless, or the widow, or shed innocent blood, and if you do not go after other gods, then I will dwell in this place. So there's like these things that seem so obvious, but like taking care of people and remembering to like don't add deceit to the mix of your daily walk with the Lord. You're not fooling him. You're not fooling anyone when you try to like make yourself seem better, or that you're going through all the right steps, or that you are so wonderful that everyone should want to be like you, or do what you say, or whatever. Like as soon as you start replacing God in those moments, it's just like, come on, guys.
Okay, so here's another real example in my own life where it's like, ah, shoot, I think I fall into some of this. So literally what God is saying is care for widows and orphans, care for, sojourners, immigrants, whatever you want to call it. Look out for those least fortunate.
Right.
And this was apparently widespread because they were very successful, they were very affluent, they were doing pretty well. And yet there were a lot of people who were poor and destitute among them, and this was a problem. So I think in my own life sometimes, if I give money to a cause, that makes me feel like I am caring for these groups of people, and I am, like I really am. But it sometimes makes me think that I am making a difference, which I kind of am, but then I ignore people
it's
on
like
my own.
secondhand difference.
And yes, in my own neighborhood, on my own street, because it's like, well, I know them. It'd be weird if I went over there and talked to them, or like, you're walking down the street and you pass a homeless person, like, what did he do to deserve that? And I know that these are complex issues, so I don't mean to minimize them, but I do think that this is something that people are bent towards. Like you feel like you accomplished it, even though it's rampant around you. And that's what's happening in this text. And that's what Jeremiah is speaking out against. Really, specifically, the callback is to God's law, because God has explicitly told the people many times to care for these groups of people.
Yep.
So you can look back in Deuteronomy, you can look back in Leviticus. This is how God set up his people to be a culture that cared for these people. And the fact that they're not is going to bring judgment upon them.
So again, we're seeing this deception throughout these chapters, but something that is really, it's like really pressing on my mind, and I think is something that we don't want to be marked with as well. There's a specific verse in chapter 7. It is in verse 28, and it said, "And you shall say to them, this is the nation that did not obey the voice of the Lord their God and did not accept discipline. Truth has perished. It is cut off from their lips." And that to me is just like, shoot, I do not want to be that generation. I don't want to repeat that type of sin, that I am marked, or my generation is marked by the fact that we gave truth over for a lie in so many ways, whether it's like explicit sin or those weird, annoying, hidden sins that we just think we're fooling everybody. I think that's really, really powerful. Like, they are known and marked for that time. God is merciful ultimately, and like gives them that little remnant one more chance because he is fulfilling a promise. But I think that speaks a lot of power. Like, whoa, we do not want to fall into those same things.
Yeah. So this can be a bleak passage. We've already mentioned, I think, every single episode on Jeremiah, that Jeremiah was not a popular prophet. People did not like to hear what he says.
Yeah, but he's like, I feel like he's very straightforward. And I appreciate that sometimes.
He's super straightforward, but imagine this guy shouting in your neighborhood every day and be like, okay, I get it. You think we're going to be ruined and destroyed. Like, dude, relax. So I've told you before, like, I actually appreciate this book. I like reading this book. But if it feels a little bit overwhelming, or if it feels like, wow, this judgy God is too intense, we wrapped up the reading today with chapter 9, like verse 23. Thus says the Lord, let not the wise man boast in his wisdom, let not the mighty man boast in his might, let not the rich man boast in his riches, but let him who boasts boast in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord who practices steadfast love, justice, and righteousness on the earth. For in these things I delight, declares the Lord. So basically, like, God is reminding the people, like, yeah, this is bleak. There is judgment coming. But when you delight in me, I am happy. I am delighted. So when you boast in me, I am happy. I'm delighted. It's not wrong to be rich. It's not wrong to be wise. It's not wrong to be influential. It's not wrong to be powerful. It's wrong to take all of your peace and comfort and security from those things.
Put it in that.
Those things are given to us by God, and so we are supposed to boast and delight in God for allowing us to have those things. And what has happened in Israel and in Judah is that they slowly stopped worshiping God and started worshiping those things instead, and now they're completely deceived. So the thing that we do in our day, the thing that we do in our day-to-day walk, this is probably your part for today, is, you don't have to be afraid of the status that you have. You don't have to be scared that you're too rich. You don't have to be scared that you're too strong. Just delight in the Lord.
And live in a healthy tension of those things, knowing that there is definitely a point where you can fall off the edge of being too wrapped up in those things. And it kind of happens like we were talking before, like all of a sudden you're in this place where it's like, you're putting something else in God's space. So thanks for joining us again today in Jeremiah. We'll be back again with more Jeremiah tomorrow.
See you then.
Thanks so much for listening to God's Plan, Your Part. If anything stuck out to you, if you have any questions, or if you'd like to receive a Bible, you can email us at godsplanyourpart@gmail.com. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, please consider supporting us through the link in our description. We love that you're on this journey with us, and we hope you have a great day. See you tomorrow.